Welcome to Resonance, the podcast where innovation meets social impact. I'm your host, Gary Bosgoed, Indigenous business leader and engineer with over 4 decades of experience in project management and community engagement. In our groundbreaking first episode, we're asking, can Indigenous wisdom revolutionize modern engineering? Today we're sitting down with Steven Vaivada, founder of Scout Engineering. Steven's not just building infrastructure. He's redefining how engineering serves Indigenous communities. Get ready to explore the game-changing concept of collaborative wisdom, why diversity isn't just good ethics, it's smart business, how reframing success can transform entire communities, and the resilience it takes to innovate in a centuries-old industry. Whether you're an engineer, entrepreneur, or simply curious about the future of sustainable development, this episode will challenge your assumptions and inspire new possibilities. So join us as we connect traditional knowledge and cutting-edge technology right here on Resonance. Where did collaborative wisdom come from?
Yeah, that's interesting. You should ask that because it's a little bit tough to pin down in terms of like that exact phrasing, but I had the good fortune to participate in this leadership program is what it was titled, but it's actually more of like a human development program that was developed by a gentleman by the name of Ken Lowe. And at the time it was called Leadership Calgary, but they changed the name to the Human Venture Institute. And it's a group that is trying to develop, I would call it frameworks for understanding the human understanding and approach to how we live our lives. And it sounds cultish and it sounds really strange, but it was essentially, a chance to sit down for about a year with a group of, 4 folks plus our larger group of about 40, where we were consuming books. We were coming back and revisiting these conversations around how people see problems and how people try to make meaning of the world. And in that, I could see that there was, in my lived experience, engineers and bureaucrats and even Indigenous people themselves had a misunderstanding of the system in which we operate. And that was creating waste, lost opportunities. And on the ground, that looks like Indigenous people living much shorter lives, poor social economic outcomes, which is a nice way of saying higher addictions, poverty, and suicide rates. And so I was very, very fortunate to be in that leadership program and to have this new perspective on the work I'd been doing as an engineer. And so coming out of that, I really saw the need to build my own toolkit. And the best way I could describe it in 2 words was this idea of collaborating, bringing in multiple stakeholders, and then striving to be more wise. So hence the collaborative wisdom.
I like that explanation, and I think that was a great opportunity to be part of that training program. We're taking notes at this end, so forgive us for stealing ideas. We're not at all embarrassed about doing that. So you have in your social media, you've always been humble and appreciative of the work that you've done. You've talked about your values, you've talked about relationships, and that really has landed with an audience there. It really resonates. So being different seems to be working.
Yeah. That I think that's been fine-tuned over time. There's a couple things there that I would say maybe I've adjusted, and maybe taken on some good feedback. One of the things somebody said was, Steve, when you're in a room, people tend to listen to what you have to say. So if you show up negative and you turn the conversation or the topic negative, you have an you overly influence that. And conversely, like if you bring positive, upbeat energy, you also have that ability to bring that kind of vibe to the conversation. And so I think I've really taken that to heart and tried to work on saying the same message. I'm not changing myself. I'm not trying to be artificial on there. And I think that's where there's been a lot of uptake in what I have to say. And I don't I don't tend to repeat stories and just like regurgitate talking points and that type of thing. I think if I get on there, I've got something to say and I'll be authentic. And if I have nothing to say, I might go quiet for a few weeks. I've actually been very quiet this year because honestly, it's been hard to feel like social media is all that important given the kind of current state of the world. And
Well said.
yeah, so I really have struggled to find reasons to go on lately because I think there's just way more important things. And personally, we've struggled with the return to work. My wife is a professional and she's had to re-enter the, in-person working world. And we're trying to work through that. What does that look like? I've had to be more attentive at home when maybe I was able to be on the road much more for the past couple of years. And so I think there's this idea that the social media should not be the central part of your existence ultimately. And it shouldn't also be a place for you to fluff up your feathers. Like, I really don't believe in that. And I think that's that authenticity maybe is what people are liking, but also, yeah, I like to keep it upbeat and I like to be encouraging and pump up people's tires. I think one of my, I like to say when I started my business, I actually started 10 businesses because all the people in my circle or within my orbit that saw me stumble my way through it, and they said to themselves, if this guy can do it, I can do it. So I saw a lot of people start up their own companies around me once I had made a go of it.
Well, there's if ever I've heard a humble role model story, that would be it. If he can do it, let's do it.
Exactly. And I think that's part of I'd call it like a superpower of mine is the ability to pump up somebody's tires and reduce their fear and encourage them to get after whatever it is they want.
Well, as you know, in the Indigenous community, failure is considered, a very, very bad and fatal thing. And you and I know that it's just part of the journey. And I think you have then gone through the journey in a very unique way. You have a firm that is all made up of underrepresented groups in the engineering profession, right? I mean, we've got gender, we've got indigeneity, and we've got, gender and indigeneity together. I mean, you've got a really unique team. And if I may say so, that perspective matters on projects. So how is that that's part of your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, we'll go back to like, how am I taking on larger companies? I think there's a conscious aspect to it. So I'll maybe take it apart into maybe 2 or 3 points here. So, I'm a big believer in people's possibilities. We're all capable of greatness. I do honestly believe that. I think under the right encouragement, with the right nourishment and encouragement, I think people are capable of greatness in their own way, right? Like and we should celebrate that. Like, we're not all going to be able to dunk a basketball or run a 4-minute mile or climb Everest, but we can be great. And so I look at it like, these larger companies, I think struggle with diversity because it's just go with what there's a comfort level with, if all the leadership is of a certain gender and age and background, they all have the same language. And so by virtue of just that one factor, that they all speak the same language, they come from many of the same lived experiences, I think it can intimidate people. It can reduce the diversity at those levels of leadership in companies. So, I really see that as a place where we can stand out and be differentiated when it comes to recruiting talent and being very progressive. The second piece to it is something I don't think I've ever shared. This is my wife's story. This isn't a long story, but it really shook me up. So we had a home in a neighborhood which was very colorful. It had maybe a few transient folks who were very nice. In my experience, I had never had anything negative happen to me walking home or going to work. But just something came up where, my wife shared that she had fear walking from the bus to home with just it's dark, it's winter, early, right? She's just trying to get home, and there's somebody walking the other way, and she said, yeah, I was a little bit scared, and I just my ears perked up, and I just wanted to understand that, because she's literally a block from home. And for me, being a large man, at that time, very athletic, I almost never experienced fear at any point in my day, or, I'd go a whole month without ever having any kind of fear experience. But for her to just be walking home from the bus, I wanted to pick that apart. And she shared with me that she and many women, and this is proven true, as I over the years have kind of tried to figure this out, that many women are also just afraid walking down the street. And it occurred to me right then that there's fully half of our society that experiences the world in a completely different way. And so that has been this kind of constant signpost on my journey of I just need to figure that out. Like, what is going on here? Because when you talk about systems and trying to solve big problems, if you don't understand, or if I don't understand half of society's perspective, then I am destined to make mistakes over and over and over again. So I think from that point on, and this was maybe 10 years ago, I think, from that point on, I've just been obsessed with that idea that there's this other perspective to the world. And in that way, perhaps I'm unconsciously encouraging some of these excellent, fully qualified, extremely capable female employees and candidates to come forward and to feel like that their perspective is heard, and it's not like other situations. So yeah, we do have, there's many times where I'm the only guy on the calls, and there's 6 or 7 of us. And
just for our listeners, Steven, that is not typical of an engineering world. So just throw that out there.
Yeah, it'd be the opposite. There might be one woman in a room full of 7 engineers. So yeah, we turn it on our head, and I think we do that, but there's no target, there's no goal, but I think it's like a virtuous cycle. As we establish that reputation, we certainly, I think, engender more of that, more women coming to us, because we do appreciate that unique perspective. And it's, I really enjoy that part of this entrepreneurial journey is trying to, learn that. And we have so many laughs. Like, I think that's the thing I really enjoy about it is, there's very few sounds in the world quite so, positive and refreshing as a bunch of women laughing. I don't know what it is. It's just, it brightens my day up.
Well, that's the world that you live in, and that's you can see it when we meet with you guys. It's a wonderful part of your business. There you have it, a glimpse into the future of engineering, shaped by the wisdom of the past. Steven Vaivada and Scout Engineering have shown us how collaborative wisdom can revolutionize an entire industry. By bridging Indigenous knowledge with modern practices, they're not just building infrastructure, they're constructing a new paradigm of success, one where community impact outweighs profit margins. As we close this first episode of Resonance, I invite you to reflect. How can you incorporate these principles into your own work and life? Whether you're an engineer, an entrepreneur, or simply someone who cares about sustainable development, there's a lesson here for all of us. In our next episode, we'll continue to amplify the voices of those who are redefining innovation in their fields. Until then, I encourage you to seek out and support Indigenous-led businesses in your area. Their perspectives might just hold the key to solving challenges we've long struggled with. If this conversation resonated with you, subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. For a deeper dive, check out our show notes. You'll find key moments from the episode, suggestions for further engagement, and links to connect with Steven and Scout Engineering. Remember, true innovation doesn't just echo, it resonates, transforming everything it touches. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep seeking wisdom in unexpected places.